Welcome to A Word for Wednesday. Thank you for joining us. You know, last week I was talking about winning souls. He that winneth souls is wise. I really felt wonderful talking to you about us winning souls. So I want to start a little series this morning. It'll take me a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks. I'm not sure exactly, but let's start with Psalm 126 and verse 5. I want to talk to you about God's promise to Christians. God's promise to Christians. Psalm 126 verse 5. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth, verse 6, and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. God's promise to Christians. If you go forth weeping, bearing precious seed, you shall doubtless, without a doubt, come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. That is a 100% guarantee. And that guarantee is not coming from GM or Ford or Chrysler or Toyota or Sears or someone else. Not a bank, not a government. That guarantee is coming from God himself to all who proclaim his name, to all Christians. This is to Christians of every time period. This is to Christians from every nation, every tribe, every tongue. This promise is to Christians. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. Now, God uses here in the psalm, like Christ does much in the Gospels, he uses something that people of that day could easily understand. He's talking about a farmer. Now, a farmer that prepares his ground properly, who cares for his ground properly, who lets it rest according to God's command, who sows it in the prescribed manner, who keeps the weeds out, who watches over it and harvests it properly, has a really good chance of bringing in a bountiful harvest. If the farmer carelessly watches over his ground, constantly plants things in that ground that drain the nutrients out in the cause of current right now profit, just keep draining that soil, not worrying about the future, doesn't care for it, doesn't plant properly, doesn't sow properly, doesn't watch over it properly, doesn't water properly, doesn't harvest properly, he doesn't have as good a chance as the farmer that goes forth very carefully, bearing his seed, doing everything properly. He has a really good chance of a harvest. And the people that God is talking to here in that day understood that. But God said, I'm going to step that up another level. I'm going to guarantee a bountiful harvest. Now, to do that, God has to be able to say, okay, it rains when it's supposed to. The sun shines when it's supposed to. It doesn't hail. It doesn't have violent winds that rip them up. The worms, the pest, I'm going to keep them out of there. God has to be able to control everything about that field to promise a faithful farmer, if you sow properly and you reap properly, I guarantee you shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. That is an amazing promise to a farmer. It's a deeper promise than that. It's an amazing promise to Christians who will win souls. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, the seed of the gospel, shall doubtless, without any doubt whatsoever, come again with rejoicing, bringing the fruit of his labor with him. Ladies and gentlemen, this promise is to you. As a Christian, this promise is to me, it's to you, it's to every Christian that will do it. If we will sow, if we will go, if we will weep, if we will bear that precious seed, we shall come again with rejoicing, bringing the fruit of our labor with us. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. Brethren, sisters, we have been promised a great harvest of souls. We have been promised a reaping. Listen to what Jesus says in John chapter 4. Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look. Look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest. There is a harvest to be reaped right now. You say, well, I understand how they could win souls in the 1950s and 1960s, and we're living in different days, and soul winning is frowned upon, and people don't want to be talked to about religion, and you just don't talk to people about religion. It's just not proper. It's just not right. That promise is not for us. Then the Bible is not true. But we know the Bible is true. That promise is to everyone who follows the commands. They shall, doubtless, without any doubt, they shall come again bearing the fruit of souls. The harvest is to be reaped right now. There are souls to be won. There are thousands of souls, millions of souls to be won. They are ready for harvest. It is God's will for us to have a reaping of lost souls in this last day. It is a promise. It is a promise from God, and God keeps his word. Oh, yes, he does. Yet most of God's promises, it comes with conditions. You know, God promised the land that flowed with milk and honey to the children of Israel, but they had to possess the land. They had to drive out the inhabitants of the land. God made them a promise, but they had something to do as well. God has given us the promise of reaping souls, but we must meet his conditions. There remains something for us to do. It's God's will for us to win souls. It's God's plan for the church to win souls in this last day. But there remains something for us to do. The question is, are we willing to do what it takes to win souls? Are we willing to do what God says to do in order that we might reap the benefit of God's promise? Now, we're not reaping this harvest for our own good. We're reaping this harvest for the good of souls. Tell me, are there millions of people lost? Our nation, the U.S., and I know there's others in other nations that are watching, and thank you for that, but in our nation, are there lost people? In your nation, are there lost? Oh my, more than ever, people are so bound by sin. They're bound by the shackles and the chains of their habits. They cannot escape. profanity and vulgarity is at an all-time high, it seems. And drug use, illegal drug abuse is at an all-time high, and alcoholism. And all of us fuddy-duddies that say, oh, I'm not going to take drugs, and I'm not going to smoke, and I'm not going to drink, we're now the weirdos. And so how in the world are we ever going to change their mind to throw away their sin and their pleasure and come and join us? I don't know how. I just know this. God promised it would be done. If we would do the things that he prescribed us to do, we would win souls. Oh, there are countless people that need to be saved. We're here in our hometown right now. And there's so many countless people that need to be saved. And they need to be saved right here. And here's where the rub comes in a little bit. People say, I want to go pastor a church over here and win souls. Or I want to evangelize and win souls. Or I want to go on the mission field and win souls. I have a question for you. Does the mission field or the pastorate or the evangelist magically make you a soul winner? And the answer is no. If you are not a soul winner before you go in the mission field, you're not going to magically become a soul winner once you step onto a foreign ground. Oh, I learned the magic of winning souls. And I say the magic feeling, the wonderful, beautiful feeling of winning souls when I was a young man right in my hometown. I love to tell people about Christ. And it's not just from the pulpit. No, I'm not even, strike that from your mind. Yes, I have spent many years from the pulpit winning souls. And I can take you to cities all over this nation where people are still Christians. And I had a part in winning them from the pulpit. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about winning souls as individuals. You see, that's the best way, really. We build relationships with people. You know, if you just go knock on doors, and I love to knock on doors and invite people to church, but if you just knock on door and say, hey, I got something to tell you, you're a sinner, and I want to show you how you can be saved, we're not going to get very far with that. We build relationships with people. You talk to your neighbors. You're kind to them. You help them with their yard. They help you with your yard. You bake them a pie. You take care of their pets while they're gone, or water their dog, or whatever. You build relationships so that when a tumultuous time comes in their life, grief, the death of a loved one, or financial reversal, they have a friend they can turn to, and in the meantime, you can tell them about a friend that you turn to, and his name is Christ. We build relationships with people and win them. I remember very distinctly on the assembly line at General Motors years ago. I just talked to this guy. We became friends. We worked together. I heard about his wife and his children and other jobs he had and his parents and things he had done. And we became friends. And one day, all of a sudden, it came upon us really quicker than what I thought it would. He was in a place where he needed some help. And I said to him, I know where you can get help. He said, I know, Rev. I know what you're going to tell me. You're going to tell me to go to church. I said, well, going to church would sure be help, but I know where you can get help right now. He said, where's that? I said, we can pray about this right here, right now. He pushed a button on the little mini assembly line that we were running. He reached over the aisle, took a hold of my hand and said, pray for me, Rev. And right there, before it was over, he gave his heart to God. Those hooks were going by where we were supposed to be setting stuff on them to take over the main assembly line, and we had to rush to catch up. But I've never enjoyed rushing to catch up so much in my life, because that man got saved right there on the assembly line in Moraine, Ohio. Oh, the joy of winning souls. One brother that I pastored would tell the people, he was an older brother who was a soul winner. He'd say, if you ever win a soul, you'll never get over it. You'll want to do it all the time. And that is the truth. And God has promised us results. The amazing thing is the results are guaranteed. Now, I'll get into later some of the conditions that we must meet, but I want you to know the results are guaranteed. You set your mind to win souls. You go, you weep, you sow, you will doubtless come back bearing fruit. That fruit may not show up today, but it will show up. He that winneth souls is wise, and God has promised us the ability to win souls. It's in you, friend. It's in you to win other people to Christ. Well, that's our word for Wednesday. We'll get into more of this in the weeks to come. Thank you for joining us, and I want you to come back and see us again real soon.